Hello and welcome to Loppy Loves. If you haven't been here before, my name is Lauren and on this channel I talk about my life as an immigrant living in Iceland. In today's video I am going to talk about the ways that my life has changed since I moved from the UK to Iceland 5.5 years ago. It'll be 6 years this year and that is crazy to think about. But before we start, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has subscribed recently and to everyone who has been subscribed from the start. I went from 200 subscribers to 300 subscribers in 4 days. And that is crazy to think about, so thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. Now I am just going to crack on with it and jump straight into this video as we do have quite a few points, quite a long list of things to talk about today. So the first thing is that I am no longer stressed about money. I don't earn a crazy amount of money, but in the UK I really struggled financially because wages are low and the cost of living in the city that I was in is it was quite high compared to the wages. And I was always stressed about money, and I grew up, my mom was always stressed about money as well. She was always in her overdraft, no matter how hard she worked. And here I earn enough. I earn enough to cover living expenses. I can save a little bit if I am not spending so much on my business. At the moment I am spending a lot of money on my business and trying to build that up, but I never have to go into an overdraft, and I'm never really negative at the end of the month money wise. So here I feel good that I earn enough, and the cost of living is high but the wages are high enough to meet that cost of living. Some people would disagree, but personally I find it okay, I find it reasonable, and I think we might actually be getting a pay rise if we didn't already just get one, because the unions are fighting for higher wages at the moment, so we might even get a bit more soon, which would be really nice. The next point on this list is that I have had much shorter commutes to work since I came to Iceland. In the UK, most of my commutes to my jobs have been about an hour, because even if you don't live that far away, the traffic is really bad, especially around rush hour. I have had one job where I had to commute for about an hour, and that was when I was living in Selfoss, like when I just moved here, but I was still working in Reykjavik for 3 months, and I didn't have a driving licence, so I was taking the bus every day. But for me, an hour commute is pretty standard. Well, it was back in the UK. But most of the jobs that I've had here have had a very short commute. When I was living in the city and working in the city, my commute was never longer than 30 minutes. And that was mostly just bus times, honestly, judging when the buses would come and if they were slightly late, and then a bit of walking from the bus stop to where I was working. But here in Selfoss, my longest commute, like within the town when I wasn't working in Reykjavik, has been a 10-minute walk. So yeah, it takes no time here, and I'll be honest, part of me kind of misses commuting on public transport, because I did have a lot of time to get things done or to read a book or just do things because I couldn't do anything else, you know. So I kind of miss the commute almost. It's really nice not having to commute, but I guess a bit of nostalgia for a long commute. This next one might surprise some people, but I have actually become much less active since I moved to Iceland than I was back in Birmingham, where I'm from. In Birmingham I used to have a lot of walking to do in my daily commute. I also used to go for walks every night before I went to bed to help me sleep. I was also doing Krav Maga once a week, I was going to club exercise once a week, and sometimes I would go to swimming once a week as well. And on average I was walking 26,000 steps a day, according to the step counter on my phone. But here I struggle to get to 10,000 steps. And that is just because of how small this town is. everything really is in walking distance, and I don't need to walk very far to get to the shops where I live. I live close to all of the amenities here. Yeah, and I used to go for walks every night, but I haven't really had time or the energy to do that over the last year because I have been focusing on my business so much. I'm also now in school as well, and I just have no energy after work. Honestly, I go from work to go work on my business and do my schoolwork, and I am just too tired to go for a walk. And recently the amount of snow that we've had has kind of I haven't been able to do that anyway. So yeah, I am a lot less active here, and I have gained quite a lot of weight as a result of that. I have found that I have a lot less energy than I used to have back in the UK, and that could be due to the fact that I'm just older than I was. You know, you get less energy as you get older, so I've heard. I'm pushing 30 now, and when I left the UK I was in my early 20s. It could also be down to the fact that I am a lot less active, as I just mentioned, than I was in the UK. But personally, I think it is due to the winters here. We have long winters and not a lot of sunlight in the winter, and I think that does affect my energy, personally. One good thing about moving here is that I eat a lot less junk food than I used to back in the UK. And I mean, I didn't eat a huge amount of junk food anyway because I couldn't afford it, really. But once a week, on the days that I was going to Krav Maga, I would have a Chinese when I got home, because I got home so late and I had to be up really early for work the next day. So I would go to the Chinese and get like a £3 meal from there. And also on the days that I went swimming, I would often get a McDonald's afterwards or something. Yeah, just to undo all of that work that I'd just done. And very occasionally, after clubbercise, not all the time, we would go and get something from Big John's afterwards, like some chips or something. But that wasn't very often. The main thing was the Chinese once a week after Krav. And here I just don't get as much junk food because of the price, partly. Also because I just don't think it's as good. And yeah, I have more time to cook. Well, I say I have more time to cook. You know, I don't have to commute, but I am very busy in general. But because I take my own lunch to work now, I have to make something to have leftovers for lunch the next day for 2 people. So I just make sure I cook a lot more now, and there's usually a lot of leftovers to eat up. But on the flip side of that, I do eat a lot more sweets than I used to in the UK, which is not helping with the weight gain, honestly. Here on Saturdays, that's called Namidagu, which is the day that you eat sweets. It's just a sweet day. And yeah, the people that I know here, my boyfriends that I've had here, will go crazy on Saturdays for sweets and eat massive bags of sweets. And also chocolate bars here are not generally not single serving, like 40-gram bars. They're like 100-gram bars, and a lot of people will finish one of those bars as a single serving. Whereas back in the UK, I would get like a little chocolate bar, like a 40-gram chocolate bar, maybe a couple of times a week if I really wanted one, just as a treat, rather than just having one day where you go crazy on everything. And I really want to get out of that habit now. I really miss my career that I had in the UK. I was a jeweller, and even though I didn't get paid a lot, I did love the work that I was doing, and felt like it gave me purpose. I felt like I was doing something good. And here there are definitely a lot less career opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for work. You know, if you're not bothered what you do, if you can clean, you can work in a restaurant, you can work in a factory, which is what I'm doing at the moment. But for like good careers, I feel like there's a lot less opportunity here, and a lot of foreigners actually just start their own business eventually because of that, and like I'm doing at the moment. But I do feel that even though it's harder to get a career here, if you do start your own business, it is much easier to get recognised than it would be in the UK because of the small community, and word spreads quickly. I did have some physical changes since I moved to Iceland, which was unusual, or at least one of them was unusual. So my skin got clearer for a start, which is great, you know, my skin's pretty clear now. But the other thing was, after 18 months of living here, my hair got like a lot darker, noticeably darker. And when I went home for a trip around about the 18-month mark, a lot of people were saying, oh, I love the colour that you've dyed your hair. It's natural, it's just grown in this way. My hair was never this dark. It was like a mousy brown, like a lighter brown, never this dark. To the point where my best friend, who I have known since I was 4 years old, when I told her it wasn't dyed, she didn't believe me. She was like, your hair has never been that dark. She's like, there is no way, that is natural, and she just refused to believe that it wasn't dyed. But yeah, my hair got darker, and I don't know why. And I also, a few months before I moved here, I was diagnosed with what my doctor called industrial asthma, as a result of working in the jewellery industry and being around these chemicals constantly. I was struggling to breathe, and that cleared not long after I moved here. I think I originally planned to come here for 3 months. Before that 3 months was up, I stopped using the inhaler because I didn't need it anymore. I could just breathe well, and that definitely was due to the fact that I left my job. But I think the air here also helped a lot. Now, the next one is something that my boyfriend has been talking about this week that he noticed. I don't know why he brought it up this week, because we haven't been to the UK since the summer, but he just mentioned it. Is that I have less confidence in Iceland than I do in the UK. In the UK, I will talk to strangers happily, especially in my hometown. I will just talk to people. And I don't do that here. I even don't like talking to the people that I know. I know that's a lie. I like talking to the people, but I don't have as much confidence talking to people here as I did in the UK. And part of that is, obviously, it's a foreign language that I'm not completely fluent in. It's also very noticeable that I have an accent here in Iceland, because there aren't really any accents. It's just everyone has the Icelandic accent. And also, I just feel social interactions are different here than they are in my hometown. I also socialise a lot less here than I did in the UK. I almost never go out, in fact. And obviously I don't have as many friends in Iceland than I did in the UK, because I've had a lot of friends that I've known since I was a child, and a lot of work colleagues that I've become friends with. I found in Iceland that, like, you can be friends with colleagues, but it's not the same kind of friendship as what I found in the UK. And there are many reasons I don't socialise as much as well. Like, it can be the weather. I think a few weeks ago I planned a night out with some of my friends from work, and then the night before we were due to go out, a massive snowstorm came and everyone just stayed home. But we should be going out next week, hopefully. Money as well is also one of the reasons. Like, I didn't have a lot of money to spare in the UK, but you'd plan ahead for your night out, and people have each other's backs, I feel, more in the UK when it comes to money and nights out. You know, if there's a night where you can't afford as much, you might have a few people chip in and cover the price of a couple of drinks, you know. Whereas here everyone is broke. I know. And alcohol is expensive, and just anything is expensive for socialising, honestly. So a lot of people, if we go on a night out, you'll get one drink for the night, and that is it. And also, I am just really busy with everything going on with my job, my business and school, so I'm not going out as much. But yeah, I used to socialise a lot more with my work colleagues. We'd have a big work night out at the last company I worked for, I think twice a year, like once in the summer and once around Christmas. But then also, the colleagues that I was friends with, we would go out quite regularly, and there was a point where we went out every week, which was nice. But yeah, we just went out a lot more for night outs. Sometimes we would just plan straight after work. We're like, okay, should we just go for a drink now? Like, there was no planning beforehand, whereas here it's always kind of planned beforehand. And actually, the colleagues that I got along with in the last company I worked for in the UK, my work friends, I still meet up with them and go for a night out with them whenever I'm back in Birmingham now, and that is actually one of my favourite things to do when I'm back in Birmingham, is go out with my old colleagues, because it's always a really nice night out. Another really, really good thing that has changed since I moved to Iceland is that I have a lot less anxiety than I used to. I still get anxious, and I think I always will have a little bit of anxiety, but I feel a lot safer outside in Iceland than I did back in Birmingham. And so yeah, I'm just less anxious in general, because back in Birmingham I could be anxious getting the bus to go to the city centre, because sometimes people kick off and get angry and you don't know what's going to happen, even if it's not directed at you. And here I just feel much safer and just happier in general, I think. One thing that I've noticed myself doing, especially in the last 6 months, is that I have kind of been distancing myself from my loved ones back in the UK, like my friends and family, and it's not intentional. But after having 2 tragedies since I moved here, like back in the UK, 2 emergencies back there, I don't know, maybe it's just like a kind of self-preservation, but it's not intentional. I fully intend to stay in touch with everyone. I just haven't been in contact with them as much, I guess, and just feel like I'm distancing myself, but I'm not trying to. But also I think it's just because I live so far away and my life is so different now, and it's kind of difficult to relate to life with them now, even though I lived back in the same town as everyone, back in the same country. Yeah, it's just, my life is so different than it used to be. And finally, I have so much more motivation to succeed in life now than I used to back in the UK. I always wanted to start my own business and be financially independent, but like being here, and due to the Icelandic labour market and, like I said, not being able to find a career really, or my career, and also due to 2 emergencies back home, it's just important to me to be financially independent, more important than it ever was, and I don't think I ever would have had this much fire in me to succeed if I had never left the UK. It's like one of my main priorities in life now. And that just came from being abroad and wanting to spend more time, I guess, back in the UK with my family, but also wanting to have a really nice life here. And yeah, so I think that's a really, really good benefit to moving abroad. And maybe that would have happened no matter where I moved to, like just away from my hometown within the UK. So that was my list of ways that my life has changed since I moved to Iceland. I would be really curious to hear from other people how your life has changed when you move away from your hometown. Maybe you just moved to a town not that far away from where you're from, but just, I'm really curious to hear it. So let me know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video with your friends, and if you'd like to, feel free to go to my coffee page and buy me a coffee. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.